June 4th, 1910. In the Tyrolean spa town of Toblach, a story begins with this remarkable woman at its center, Alma Mahler. Although she has been married for 8 years to the famous composer Gustav Mahler, she begins an affair with another spa guest, Walter Gropius. Just like her husband, Gropius is a star in his field, in architecture. That's because Alma Mahler has very refined taste in men. These two will not be the only extraordinary males to pass through her tumultuous life. Not without reason will she later be referred to as the last femme fatale of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, the most seductive woman of the 20th century, or even a collector of geniuses. Vienna, the last years of the 19th century. The new artistic movement of Art Nouveau draws talents from across Central Europe to the Austro-Hungarian capital. And at the heart of the thriving artistic life are the legendary salon gatherings. Around 1895, a certain 16-year-old Alma Schindler begins attending them. She had an easy path. As the daughter of the then popular painter Emil Jakob Schindler, she was well known. But that alone wouldn't be enough. She possessed a deadly combination of captivating beauty, sharp intelligence, musical talent, and biting wit. So, suitors started flocking to her, and not just any suitors. The first is Gustav Klimt, the pioneer of Art Nouveau, and from today's perspective, the greatest painting star of his time. He is already 35, but the 17-year-old Alma is simply irresistible to him. They kiss, and he even follows her on a vacation to Venice, but her parents put a stop to their relationship. Alma, however, discovers that she knows how to handle men and that what attracts her the most are those who possess undeniable talent. She would always say that appearance or age doesn't matter to her. What matters is genius. She then flirts with her piano teacher and rising musical star, Alexander von Zemlinsky. Although the composer of 3 symphonies and 1 opera is annoyed by her remarks that he is an ugly little goblin and driven to madness by her refusal to lose her virginity to him, he admires her music. Under his guidance, she also begins composing, and according to contemporaries, her compositions, such as the musical settings of poems by Rainer Maria Rilke, are really good. In 1901, when Alma is 21, all her other romantic pursuits are ended by this man, Gustav Mahler. A native of Kaliszta in today's Czech Republic, he has worked his way to the absolute peak in Vienna. A renowned conductor and composer, he has been the head of the Vienna Opera for a few years, for which he had to abandon his Jewish faith and convert to Catholicism. At 40, he is still unmarried and meets Alma at one of the salon gatherings. And since this is finally an attractive match for Alma and her family, their wedding takes place the following year. Marriage to Mahler turns Alma's life upside down. The once lively girl who loved socializing suddenly falls into the routine of life with an introverted older composer, whose day is governed by a strict schedule, composing and conducting over and over. Even when they are on vacation by Lake Wörthersee, Mahler spends most of his time composing in this little cottage, while Alma cares for him. What's even worse, Mahler has insisted that one composer in the family is enough, effectively forbidding Alma from pursuing her own musical activities, which was her greatest joy. They gradually have 2 daughters, Marie in 1903 and Anna a year later, but neither distracts Alma too much. Evidently, she wasn't a maternal type, and the children were mostly cared for by a nurse. Then comes a family tragedy. Their older daughter Marie dies at the age of 5 from diphtheria, which devastates both parents. They travel to New York for Mahler's engagement at the Metropolitan Opera, but upon returning, Alma falls into depression and alcoholism. In the summer of 1910, she leaves alone without her husband for a recovery stay in the Tyrolean spa town of Toblach, where, in the midst of her treatment, she meets another patient, Walter Gropius. The 27-year-old Gropius is a pioneer of modern architecture.
Jeho puristický návrh továrny v německém Alfeldu z téhož roku šokuje svět. Dnes je budova na seznamu UNESCO. Později založí slavnou uměleckou školu Bauhaus. Je mladý, krásný, úspěšný a nedá mu mnoho práce rozproudit ve ztrácené Almě novou krev. Prudkou romanci sice prozatím ukončí neočekávaný příjezd Gustava Mahlera, ale mladý architekt hodlá o Almu bojovat.
After returning from the spa, he writes her a longing love letter, and either by accident or intentionally, he addresses it not to her, but to her husband. The letter logically triggers a major family crisis. Mahler even visits the famous psychologist Sigmund Freud, and after a 4-hour therapy session, Freud persuades him to change his attitude towards his wife. This time, it will be Alma around whom everyone will fuss at home, and Gustav even persuades her to return to composing. However, the happier period will soon end, as less than a year later, in May 1911, Gustav Mahler dies from a streptococcal heart infection. Alma is 32, and she becomes the most famous widow in Vienna. She is still sensual and also wealthy, so a frenzy ensues around her. From the stacks of marriage proposals, she accepts none. Not even the one from Walter Gropius. Instead, she falls madly in love with the young 24-year-old painter Oskar Kokoschka, another genius with Czech roots. Oskar is incredibly passionate, but also quick-tempered and jealous. During their 3-year relationship, he paints almost nothing other than her or the two of them together as a couple. The most famous being the painting, The Bride of the Wind. But Alma eventually breaks up with him, as she cannot handle such an intense relationship. Oscar's world collapses, and since World War I has just begun, he voluntarily has himself sent to the Eastern Front, where he is severely wounded, and reports of his death start circulating in Vienna. At that moment, another characteristic of Alma becomes evident, a pragmatism or calculativeness. She breaks into Oskar Kokoschka's abandoned studio, where she takes all the letters they wrote to each other and all the paintings he made of her. She wants to have perfect control over her story in the future. Meanwhile, she rekindles her relationship with Walter Gropius, who, coincidentally, is also at the front. During one of Walter's leaves in 1915, they get married, and a year later, they have a daughter, Manon. But it is only now that things begin to get complicated, like in a soap opera. The newlywed Gropius has to return to the war, Kokoschka is missing, Alma is bored in Vienna, so she starts another romantic relationship, this time with the world-famous writer Franz Werfel, another native of today's Czech Republic. Werfel is again much younger, this time by 11 years, and of all of them, he is by far the least handsome. But he treats Alma wonderfully. Unlike Gropius, he loves music, is attentive, and funny. Even before the war ends, they conceive a child, a son, Martin. But now beware, the year is 1918, and Gropius returns from the war. He finds out that Alma is not only living with someone else, but also has a child with him, and he immediately files for divorce. Meanwhile, the missing Kokoschka returns, and his love for Alma has not faded. When he learns that Alma is being fought over by 2 other men, in a fit of despair, he has a life-size felt figure of Alma made, with all the intimate details portrayed. Finally, he has her all to himself. He talks to the puppet, even paints with it. After one drunken night, he ritually beheads it. Such was the power of his feelings. Alma spends the interwar years with the writer Franz Werfel, whom she eventually marries. Now, it should be calmer, but in reality, it is exactly the opposite. Neither the son conceived with Werfel nor the daughter conceived with Gropius survives to adulthood. Alma gains both years and pounds, so the last love affair, which Werfel generously tolerates, takes place in 1934 at the age of 55, with the theologian Johannes Hollensteiner, who even leaves the priesthood for her. But the dark times continue. With the rise of Nazism, the family must flee Austria due to Werfel's Jewish background. After a dramatic journey in September 1940, by now Alma is almost 60, they are forced to walk across the Pyrenees, eventually reaching Madrid, and then Lisbon, from where they continue by ship to the United States. There, they spend the entire war. Shortly after it ends, however, in August 1945, Werfel unexpectedly dies of a heart attack. Now, Alma Mahler is truly the most famous widow in the world. She spends the rest of her life building the names of her previous husbands, of whom she most values Mahler, but above all, her own name. She writes memoirs, which sell like hotcakes, but historians discover that they are embellished and some of the information is distorted. Researchers begin calling it the Alma problem, because these are the only surviving testimonies of certain aspects of Mahler's life and the background of his work. Alma Mahler died in New York in 1964. She was 85 years old. The world lost a truly extraordinary but also quite controversial woman. A woman who became the muse of many geniuses and also their curse.